It's a sunny day to discuss some financial mathematics and ultimately go down to credit risk analytics and Basel. So let's start 125 years back. In 1900, Louis Bachelier published a paper which is known as Théorie de la spéculation. In that paper, he said that the prices for stocks and bonds follows a normal distribution and the movement follows a Brownian motion. Now, at that time, we did not know what Brownian motion is because only in 1905, Einstein and Wiener, when they published their paper, coined the term Brownian motion for the first time. And in 1930, Wiener published a paper in which he did the mathematics for Brownian motion. Anyway, so that's the work of Louis Bachelier, and that was the first step towards achieving greater things in finance using mathematics. So that's the beginning, and the paper Théorie de la spéculation is a landmark in financial mathematics history. In 1965, Samuelson published another paper where he just modifies Bachelier's thoughts, and he said that the prices do not follow the Brownian motion as he proposed, the change of prices do. So instead of loss, he introduced the term log loss, and then he modeled the theory based on these observations. And this is also a very important paper in the journey of financial mathematics. Then came 1973. In 1973, we have Black and Scholes perhaps creating the most important formula to be used in financial mathematics, which is known as Black Scholes equation. So what they were trying to do, so in European style option pricing, we have two kinds of options, call options and put option. So they were trying to model a fair price for that. So once we understand what option is and how we exercise that, then it would be clearer that what they were trying to achieve. So we'll learn about that briefly here, maybe in details later. But before that, we must mention Kiyoshi Ito. In 1951, he published a paper in which he proposed Ito's calculus or Ito's lemma, which was used by Black Scholes to do their mathematics. And this is very important because Brownian motion is a non-differentiable function. So how can we use differential equation to a non-differential function? So this is a problem. The solution was created by the genius of Kiyoshi Ito. So that is a very important paper in the history of financial mathematics. So let us understand European option. So let us try to understand call option. Imagine there is a share which costs 10 rupees right now, and you predict that after 3 months it would be 15 rupees. So you say, I should have the option to buy the stock after 3 months at 10 rupees, and for that I am going to lock the price at 10 rupees by paying 3 rupees more. Right. When the stock price surges up, and then you are going to buy that stock and sell at 15. So this is what call option is, that I should have the option to buy the stock at the current price after 3 months, and I am paying an extra amount of money to lock that price. Now, if you see that the price of the stock has gone down, you will of course not buy it and make a fool of yourself, right? So only if the price goes beyond your prediction, at least the base of your prediction, it stays, then you are going to, buy the stock and sell at that price and make some profit. So what should be the fair price for this call? That was the problem Black and Scholes were trying to solve. So they used this total line of understanding that started from Louis Bachelier, then Samuelson used Kiyoshi Ito's formula and came up with the Black Scholes equation for option pricing, which is a landmark equation in the history of financial statement and which would be used by later scientists and mathematicians to formulate the credit risk mathematics that we have for risk-weighted assets and everything in later years. Just 1 year later, Robert Merton, in 1974, uses a Black Scholes equation and then comes up with something that is considered as the base, as the foundation for the credit risk mathematics that we have currently. So Robert Merton said, okay, if we have a company and the company has some asset and some debt, so the company would go into default if the value of the asset is lesser than its debt. And he modeled that following the model that was used by Black Scholes in option pricing. Just he transformed those ideas into the credit risk domain, where he predicted the company's default criteria. Right? So that was Merton's paper in 1974, which opened the door for calculating default mechanisms and thus leading us to the calculation of different capital ratios in order to make an organization function better. In 1977, Vasicek would come with a paper which would enhance this concept further. In 1977, then Vasicek published a paper which dealt with interest rate, which said that interest rates, even though they can move randomly for short term, but in the long term, they tend to revert to the long-term average. And he used stochastic calculus, which is Ito's calculus, to formulate that paper. And this paper is also important, which will be considered in the future derivations of the credit risk mathematics. Then in 2002, Vasicek published a paper which is known as loan portfolio value. Now, loan portfolio value is a landmark because this is the foundation of Basel II's idea of calculation of risk-weighted asset. So, what did Vasicek do here? Vasicek built the concept for this particular paper on the 1974 Merton's paper. As we discussed, that Merton said that the value of a company, rather like the company would default if the value of assets go down beyond the debt. Now so what Vasicek did was he modeled this in such a way that he said, instead of one firm, let us extrapolate this concept for a large number of borrowers. And he introduced two concepts, idiosyncratic and systematic factors. So idiosyncratic factors are factors which would be individually affecting people, and systematic factors are factors which would affect everyone. Now, the thing is, he said that because we are implementing this for a large number of borrowers, the idiosyncratic factors would, through diversification and law of large numbers, would not affect, but there will be one factor which is systematic, which would affect the value of the portfolio. That whether the portfolio would go in a shock or not, whether the portfolio would go in an unexpected behavior or not. This he named as asymptotic single risk factor model, which he used in 2002, and that is the foundation for the Basel II calculations that we use nowadays, right? So he kind of used the mathematics based on Merton's model, as we discussed. Thus, in a simplified manner, at least we know the learning path from 1900 to 2004. We have to travel to understand the equation that is used in the Basel calculations. So we have to cover this distance of 100 years, and it may take a lifetime for us to understand this thoroughly. It's just the learning path I gave in the most simplified manner. It needs way deeper study and research to get a grasp on all the small nuances of these concepts, and as I said, it may take years for us to master this journey. But it's fun nevertheless, and I'm sorry I had a fever and my health was not keeping well, so I could not do the video on the gradient descent, how we are going to solve the problem of global maxima, and in case where more than one maximas exist. I will use the concept of simulated annealing in the future video and cover that as well. So cheers and keep learning.